Bit of a murky start today. I don't know if you can see that great crested grebe has just gone under. Beautiful mist hanging over the reed beds. Fantastic. If you look at the church ahead of us, what do you notice? It's round, there's no corners. And that's because there's no natural stone in Norfolk to make the corners. So because they only had flint to work with, they tended to build the towers round. Fantastic. Look at all this ragwort. It's just everywhere. Not very good because ragwort's poisonous. It's just a sea of yellow. Both sides of the path. The fort itself is part of a string of forts that line the Norfolk coast, and they were called Saxon forts. Well, they were on the Saxon shore, and people are not sure why it was called the Saxon shore, but maybe it was because it wasn't called the North Sea at that time. Maybe it was the Saxon Sea, so this would be the Saxon shore. But there's a dozen or so forts that line the Norfolk coast. If you look at the wall, how they were built with sort of a course of bricks every so far. You can see there's a layer, there's a layer, and there's a layer, and they put those in to sort of stabilise the wall, but also give the stonemasons a level to work along, you know, when they were building each successive layer. And they are fantastic feats of engineering. You think how much flint must have been brought in to build these walls, and also the bricks were kiln fired, which was something the Romans brought over to this country. Now when we go around this corner, you'll see what the whole of the fort would have looked like. These are what the walls would have looked like. They'd have been faced off with flint all the way down. This would have been like on, well, there's three sides at the moment. They're not sure whether there was a fourth wall or whether it was a wooden palisade that led down to the wharfs for fishing and bringing goods in. This is the wall. You can see where it's sort of coming away here. This piece has been underpinned so it doesn't fall off, but it's fantastic. Look at that for workmanship. Each one of those pieces of flint's probably been knapped by hand to shape. I know I've said it on a few of my other videos about the Romans, but they built to stay. They built with a permanence. You can see that in these walls. Now I'm going to show you something now. This is one of the towers that's fallen over. And in the top, so I can show you down here at the bottom, there's a hole. Can you see that hole there? Now, from aerial photographs, they've found that each of the towers on the corners of the fort has a hole. And they think maybe it was for some sort of artillery, like a ballista, something for shooting arrows, or like a catapult. But they're not sure. And as we walk through this opening here, this bit of the walls collapsed. Now the reason it's collapsed was because when the Normans invaded, they built a Motte and Bailey castle here. It was like a big mound of soil with a wooden sort of tower on top. And the reason this is undermined is because they dug a moat around the castle and they sort of undermined the walls. It's fantastic. Now in the sort of 1800s, the Motte and Bailey was levelled. You can see the interior of the fort now. Not that long ago it was farmed, it was ploughed, and sugar beet was grown here. But you can see the 3 walls, 1, 2, and this wall here. Now this was where the 3rd wall would have been, but they're not sure whether it was actually a wall because there's no evidence been found of a wall. So maybe it was a wooden palisade that led down to the water. But everything you can see in front of you would have been underwater. It would have been part of the great estuary that was here when the Romans were here. Now the mill you can see in front of you here, Burgh Arms Mill, that's called, and just to the right of it here is the Burgh Arms. Now the Burgh Arms Mill is an interesting mill because it used to grind up clinker for making roads. Now clinker is the offshoot of the sort of iron smelting industry, you know, the slag iron that's left, and they would grind it up to make clinker to put down on the roads to metal the roads. But like I said, all this in front of you would have been marshland, flooded, and it would have just been totally different to what we see now. Now if I just come over here a little bit. Now right in the distance, so I can point to it, right in the distance is a church tower, and that's Reedham Church. And from excavations they think there might have been a Roman lighthouse that had been built at Reedham. So if you cast your mind back nearly 2,000 years, all this would be flooded. You'd be hearing curlews, there'd be mallard flying up, and a big Roman fort overlooking it. I've just found this on top of a rabbit hill, well, a molehill, I should say, rabbit hill, a molehill. It looks to be a piece of, well, I think we call it ceramic building material. Probably some piece of brickwork from the vicus that would have been around the fort. Yeah, I'd imagine there would have been quite a town built up around the fort for trade and export and import, I suppose, of goods. We should always look on molehills. Surprising what they turn up. These bastions on the corner seem to have been added later. You can see the crack at the top here, where it's sort of coming away. So I wonder if they felt there was a need to sort of reinforce the fort at some point. But you can see massive structures. Here's another of the towers in front of us, coming down the wall and then sticking out. You can see the crack a bit better on this one here, coming down, where it's sort of breaking away from the main wall. Here's 2 more towers. You can see where they've eroded away. You can see the brickwork here. You can see it a bit closer here. But then you have this sort of zigzag line of bricks. Don't know what that was for. Look how this one's breaking away from the main wall. You can almost walk through that gap. This beautiful plant is a mallow plant. If you look closely, there's a snail at the top. Now I wonder how long it took him to get from the bottom all the way down there all the way up to the top.